Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you are well. Yay, this is the first time I get to sit properly in my little book corner since the showers have been done. So happy. I haven't actually filmed since the 26th of April. So I know that you've probably been wondering, where's Vivi? She does a video every 3 days, she's missed a video, what's going on? I've had a bit of a to-do, a tricky couple of weeks, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit today and then move on to some other stuff. I need to gather my thoughts. Yeah, I've had a bit of a health scare and it really knocked me sideways. So filming was the last thing I wanted to be doing. I needed to get on with, looking after myself. So if you remember, just before Christmas I had some blood tests done and all my bloods were completely out of whack, just completely wrong. So I had repeat bloods done at the end of January, still everything was out of whack. And then on the 28th of April, my doctor rang me in the morning and coincidentally that was the day for my annual mammogram. So I thought he was ringing about that, just to say I had the mammogram, all clear, yay, that's a really big tick every year. So I thought he was ringing about that, but he wasn't. He'd been looking at my bloods, and then he started to ask me a series of questions. And I said, yes, oh how odd, yes, yes, no I don't get that, sometimes, yes, yes, yes. Anyway, the long and the short is, throughout that conversation, so we were on the phone for about 10 minutes, he suspected a type of cancer. And he must have mentioned it about 4 or 5 times in that phone call. So that's like, ooh, crikey, okay. So you all know me, I'm very pragmatic. I mean, I am a very emotional person too, but I'm primarily pragmatic. So in the phone call, I said to him, right, what do we need to do? What's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And he wanted to send me for an endoscope, which is the camera that goes down your esophagus, into your stomach, and carries on, and then actually into your small intestine. So I thought, okay, good, we'll get on with things. I don't have much time to think about it today because I've now got to go off to Poole and to get myself to Poole Hospital. I haven't been to Poole Hospital before, so I have my bus timetable out and my map because I have to take a couple of buses. How am I going to get there? The timings. Went off to Poole, great. Then when I came home, there was an email waiting for me, and it was their fast track cancer diagnosis service. I can't remember the exact wording. And it's quite a long document, about 4 pages, saying why you've been put into the fast track, what will happen, what you should expect, etc, etc. And again, in that document, this particular type of cancer was mentioned about 4 or 5 times. So by the end of that day, it's almost like sort of positive reinforcement. When you hear that phrase a number of times in one day, obviously it's in one's head of me thinking, crikey, my doctor seems pretty convinced I've got this type of cancer. I'm just going to say very quickly, I don't. We don't know what's wrong, but I don't have that type of cancer. Just so no one's wondering and getting worried or upset. Anyway then, a couple of days later I was actually up at the surgery to see him so he could physically examine me, and again it was mentioned a number of times, and by then I think it was the Friday. Now fortunately, right at the beginning of May, I'd organised already the bank holiday weekend in May. I'd organised to go away for that long weekend to visit a friend. More of that in the next video because I'm going to be making something for her. It's my friend Kate, who you met when she came to see me here last summer. She's just moved now to, I can't wait to tell you about it. So I was away to see her for 3 days, and thank goodness, because it gave me a chance to talk about it, just talk about my worries, and talk about practicalities, because, for example, I have a will, but I don't have my lasting power of attorneys organised, which is getting warm now, the sun's coming out, which are to do with, you know, finances, having someone take over your finances for you, but also there's another one for health decisions. So, yeah, it was, thank goodness I had that weekend with her, because part of what I'm going to chat about today is some of the practicalities of, when you live on your own. It's not just living on your own, because I know a lot of you live on your own, but you have a friend down the road, or you have family not too far away, you might have grown-up children, you might have brothers and sisters, siblings. So there's usually someone you can call on. But if you're in a position like me where you are literally on your own, I don't have friends in the area. I have lots of lovely friends, but they live miles away. Some of them live thousands of miles away. So anyway, I came back from my visit with Kate. First thing I did was I went into a solicitor's office to say, I need to meet with one of the solicitors. I need to organise my powers of attorney, and it's quite urgent, or it could be quite urgent. Let's get on with that. So on and so forth. And yeah, I'm kind of one of my first thoughts was, are you kidding me? I've just got my bookshelves done. I don't want to die yet. I've just got my bookshelves done, for goodness sakes. Look, I know I'm sounding glib, and I don't mean it glibly at all. I actually really did think that about the bookcases. So yeah, so I'm sure you can imagine that I was pretty darned distracted by that, and picking up a camera was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to just do the practical things I needed to do for myself. Anyway, then the appointment for the scope came around, and I think it was 13 days after that initial phone call. So I had 13 days of like, Then the scope happened. I'm going to tell you about that in a second, about what it's like and how to cope with a scope when you're on your own. And having had the scope done, she was brilliant. She said, no, there's no sign of cancer down there. I was like, I burst into tears, gave her a hug. I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Done. But I've had to have more bloods done. My bloods are still out of whack, so we don't know. I still don't know what's the matter. It still needs to be explored, but at least for now, that particular cancer is off the table. Yay. Now with the scope, I had to have it in a hospital, which is not near to me. In fact, oh my goodness, what a palaver. I'm going to come on to the town where I went to have it, because I'm going to go back, and I'll tell you why in a second. But yeah, my appointment had to be there for 8:30 in the morning. It's, as the crow flies, it's maybe 20 miles away, but of course I don't drive. So I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I haven't done that for a long time, as in, you know, like getting up for work. Oh my goodness, 4:30, what an ungodly hour. I'm often up at 4:30, but that's because I haven't been to bed yet, or I'm up because I can't sleep. But yeah, up at 4:30, I left at 5:45, got my first bus, at 6, arrived at my first destination at 7:15, waited for the next bus. The next bus was at 7:25, got that bus. That got me to my next destination at around about, I think it was 8:05. Then there wasn't a bus direct to the hospital, so get off and had a walk. I think it took me about 10 maybe 15 minutes to walk. Anyway, I got to the hospital by it was before 8:30. So I was there in plenty of time, but what a trek. I messaged Paul afterwards that the whole thing had taken 7.5 hours. It's like a full work day for one short appointment. Anyway, excuse me, I'm just going to wet my whistle. That's better. Give my nose a blow too. Yes, so the scope itself. So I thought I'd talk about it today because I know, look, there are probably some of you who have had loads of them in your lifetime who don't bat an eyelid. But if you've never had one and you might be due one, I think it's bound to be a little bit daunting. Anything unknown is always going to come with a little bit of nervousness, anxiety, trepidation. I wouldn't be human if I just waltzed in there having not thought about it and going, yeah, go on, do it to me. I think there'd be something wrong with me. So I hope by talking about it today, I can allay some anxieties, certainly some of the anxieties I had. And the reason I was mentioning being on my own is, as a person on their own, I am not allowed sedation. They will not sedate me for a procedure like that. You can't have sedation unless you have someone to come and pick you up afterwards, to collect you afterwards, even if it's going home in a taxi or someone driving you home, however it is. You have to have someone, a responsible adult, collect you from the hospital and stay with you for 12 hours. So, if you're on your own, like me, as in there's no family around, no friends around, no adult children around, whatever it is, you can't have sedation. But actually, not having sedation has its plus points too, which I'll explain. So, very simply, this scope, I'll turn sideways on. We've got 2 tubes that run down here. Right, sort of back to back, next door to each other, one in front of the other. The one at the front, that's your trachea. Actually, let's not talk medical terms. I'm going to talk to you now as if I'm a paediatric nurse again. So the one at the front, that's the windpipe, the air pipe. That's where all the air comes down the pipe and into our lungs, and yay, gorgeous oxygenated air. The one behind, that's your food pipe. So that food pipe goes all the way down into your stomach and then it empties out of your stomach into your small intestine. And from there, we start to grab our nutrition. Those pipes are really close to each other, and you probably know already, there's a trap door, I told you paediatric nurse, there's a trap door on your air pipe so that when you swallow, whether you're eating food, swallowing a drink, swallowing a bit of saliva, that trapdoor snaps shut, so it stops anything going down into your air pipe. Great. Okay, we've got our anatomy sorted. So with the endoscope, it's going down the food pipe into the stomach and into a bit of the intestine. My fear with not being able to have sedation, my fear was that I would gag on it, that I'd be like, I can't swallow it, my body won't accept it, I'm going to be doing all that gagging stuff and coughing and spluttering, and it might even make me vomit. Those were my concerns, my fears that were going around in my head. Have no fear. Okay, I should say as well, right from the outset, it is not a painful procedure at all. There's no pain involved. It's not even, I would say, it's not even uncomfortable. It's just weird. It's odd, but it's not going to hurt you at all. And you know, even like I say, in terms of discomfort, being uncomfortable, I didn't find it uncomfortable at all, just a bit strange. Now that whole kind of gagging thing, they get over that, and I didn't know this, and which is why I'm sharing it. The back of your throat gets sprayed with an anaesthetic spray, so it numbs the back of your throat. So as the scope goes in, you can't feel it. So because you can't feel it, you don't have that gag reflex. It's great. The whole procedure is done lying down, lying on your side. So I was really comfortable lying on my side. And then there's a little piece that gets put into your mouth. It's sort of to protect your teeth, actually. It's about this wide, where it's sort of circular, not too big. And in terms of depth, it's about this deep. So that depth goes into your mouth. It's plastic. And it's got a slight lip to it. and that's to help. So the scope goes in, it's not going to bash your teeth. But what I found with that little mouthpiece, and it's on a strap, so the strap goes around the back of your head and clips here, so it's held there. You don't have to hold it, you don't have to do anything, just lie there, think happy thoughts. But I actually found that just resting my teeth gently on it, so I wasn't biting like, I wasn't biting down on it, but I could rest my teeth gently on it. It was strangely comforting. I think, I was trying to think about it afterwards, I suppose almost like a dummy when you're a kid, or sucking your thumb, or as I used to as a child, I used to suck my thumb and my finger. A whole lot went in there. So it's almost, think of it as a comfort thing. And the team around me, so there was the endoscopist to my side, there was a nurse to my head and a nurse to my back here. They were all brilliant, explaining each stage and reassuring me the whole time, because you can sort of feel it. You can sort of feel it. But like I say, it's not painful, it's not, there's no discomfort. It's just really peculiar. You just have to go with that. But what I found really reassuring was both the nurse beside me and the endoscopist. They were saying, we've got you, you're safe, your airway is safe, we're just passing it down, we're at this stage, you're safe, focus on your breathing. And that's what I did, and that would be my top tip to everybody who has to have one without sedation, is I focused on my breathing, and I had a mantra as I went along. So for every in-breath, in my mind, I said, I am safe. Took a breath in, I am safe. And as I breathed out, I found it easier to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. That's what I found easiest. Breathe in, I am safe. And as I breathed out, I kept saying, it's nearly done. So I was going, I am safe, it's nearly done. I am safe, it's nearly done. I am safe, it's nearly done. And then it was done. So, there's the nurse at my head end. She has suction catheter. So if there's a lot of saliva or dribble, because you can't really swallow while it's happening, they can suck out any build-up of saliva. The spray, the anaesthetic spray, the effect of that lasts for about an hour. So you can't drink or eat for an hour afterwards. You have to let that anaesthetic wear off and then have a little sip of water, see how you go, and if you're not coughing and spluttering, which you shouldn't be, then you can carry on as normal. So then after the procedure, and it took about 10 minutes, maybe, tops 10 minutes. So after the procedure, go into the recovery room. The people who'd been before, there were a couple of people before me, they had sedation, so they were on beds having a little trickle of oxygen. That's standard. Taking their time to sort of wake up properly. Because I hadn't had sedation, I went into the corner, just sat on a chair, had a couple more sets of obs done, blood pressure, heart rate, that sort of thing. Last bit of paperwork, discharge paper, prescription, because there was something wrong, but it's not to do with my bloods. And then I'm off, I'm done. And the great thing about not having the sedation meant that I can basically, for the rest of the day, I can now carry on as normal. So there's no, the clouds have come over, the sun's gone in and I'm getting chilly. So there was no, and I've got my t-shirt with the holy armpits, you didn't see that. There's, I could literally, I walked out of the hospital, walked to the bus stop, and got my bus home, which took, get home 3 hours later. But it meant, I didn't have any drowsiness for the rest of the day. I can get straight back on with work or whatever it is I need to do. After the hour had elapsed from the anaesthetic spray, I took my first sip of water. I need a sip now. And it was fine. I was so well, you know how much water I drink, because I'd had no solids since the night before, and my last sip of water was at 4:30. I got up at 4:30 partly so making sure I got a sip of water in. Within minutes I'd drunk about half a litre of water. So I really hope that reassures anyone who needs to have a scope at some point in the future. Even if you do have someone collecting you, even if you're going to have some sedation, that it is such a straightforward, quick procedure, and even without sedation, I managed it absolutely fine. I had to have that little, you see, I had originally, when I'd discussed the appointment on the phone, I'd asked for sedation because I was so worried about gagging. I think I've got a really strong gag reflex. And on the phone she'd said, yeah, you'll be able to have sedation so long as you go home in a taxi and one of your neighbours pops in to see you. Very casual. When I got there, they said, absolutely no way, you're not having sedation. We can rebook you at a different hospital where, if needs be, you can be admitted, And I just, in my head, so what you have to remember from the first bit of today's video is, in my head, my doctor is convinced I've got a type of cancer. And to prolong that agony, to prolong that cloud hanging over me by waiting for another appointment, I just thought, no, I can't bear it. I cannot bear to wait. So yeah, it's like, this is a really important diagnostic tool. This is it kind of thing. You're just going to have to put those big girl pants on, be brave, suck it up, buttercup, just do it. Just do it, because you need this diagnosis. Whichever way it goes, you need a diagnosis. So yeah, I put my big girl pants on, and then afterwards I was coming home on the bus and occasionally sort of chuckling to myself, thinking about how, never mind the actual cancer diagnosis, that's a whole different matter, but my worry about having that scope. And I was thinking, if I'd known beforehand what it was going to be like, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as nervous. Partly the anxiety around the whole thing was also to do with public transport. When you're trying to get somewhere on public transport for a certain time. Now look, I think I am, if there was a degree, if there's an honest degree in using public transport, reading timetables and reading maps, I'd get a first class with honours. Because I've been doing it all my life. I've only ever used public transport all my life. But even so, out here in rural England, on the end of a peninsula where there's only one bus out, well, there are two buses, but one goes on the ferry, goes the other way. Yeah, it was quite a juggle to work out, if I take this bus, will it meet that bus? And does this bus, where exactly does it go? Where exactly does it stop? Because it doesn't stop at the hospital. So how am I going to get from there to the hospital? And like, get maps up online, get my bus time, I have a printed bus timetable, it's like a book, get my printed bus. So I was like, so then I made a note, it's like, right, 6 o'clock there, 7 o'clock there, walk ahead, turn left at such and such a road, walk uphill, blah, blah. Anyway, so that whole appointment had anxiety around it, not least because I didn't even know how I was going to get there, if I could get there. I didn't worry about coming home because I knew that if I can get there, I can get home, obviously. But yeah, if that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today, partly to explain my absence, but partly because I really want to reassure anyone else who might have that coming up. I wish someone had been able to hold my hand and reassure me that it wasn't going to be as hideous as I thought. Honestly, I thought I was just going to be, I thought they'd try 3 or 4 times and it would be a case of, yeah, we can't do it on this woman, she's gagging too much, we're going to have to knock her out, sedate her, but to do that it'll be a different appointment, different hospital, it might be 2 or 3 weeks time. Couldn't bear the thought of that. Anyway, so that's done. Now, hang on, another big glug. Yeah, so what a relief, what a huge relief. This is why I cried afterwards, it was just the relief. So, look, my bloods are still wonky. I'm obviously going to have to be explored a bit more. We're going to have to look at other possibilities, but for now, I'm happy, you know, my joie de Vivi is coming back, getting on with things again, getting back to work, what have you. But now the town that I went to, it's Wimborne Minster. I know some of you will know it, Wimborne Minster. It's north, it's inland, it's in Dorset still, it's inland, sort of north of Poole. I've known of Wimborne Minster for pretty much my entire life. I'd never been there. And as the bus was approaching the town, it's only a little town, it's actually not much bigger than Swanage. I don't know exactly how big it is, but it's a really small town. As we're approaching, I saw the architecture ahead of me of the bridge. So there's a little narrow bridge, slightly humpbacked, only wide enough for one vehicle. And the bridge, gorgeous. I thought, oh, maybe Wimborne is older than I realise. Wimborne Minster is the name of the town. Maybe it's older than I realised. Oh, it looks lovely. So came over the bridge, over the River Stour, more of that in a second, and then you sort of, I suppose the river in a way marks the boundary of the town. So I didn't have far to go before I got off the bus to then, because the town's on the edge of the hospital. But what I could see ahead of me in terms of architecture, I thought, oh, it looks lovely. Old town, lovely. Anyway, then I sort of coming home, basically, I sort of remembered a few things that I'd been told about Wimborne ages ago. Then I checked something on my computer and I thought, I'm going to go back there for a day trip. Yeah, I'm going to have a day trip. Don't have holidays, but I can have a day trip because, yeah, it's an old town. I think, I'm not sure when it was established, but there's a minster there. So if you don't know Minster, it's basically a church. It's a twin-towered minster, and I think it's from around about, don't quote me, I'll find out. So when we have I'm going to take you with me on the day trip, I can tell you the facts. But it's around about 1250, 1300. But the thing that I'm really excited about is within Wimborne Minster, they have one of the very last chained libraries left in the UK. There are only 4 chained libraries left. And so a chained library, just give me half an hour of time, does exactly what it says on the tin. The books, and some of them are these great huge tomes, they're actually on chains. They're chained to the bookshelf, so hence it's called a chained library. And of course, some of these books, it's from before the printing press, so they're handwritten books. Beautiful. Some of them, they're probably illuminated as well. These books were incredibly valuable, hence they are chained to the shelves. For me, even now, look at me with my, oh, I'm so happy to be reunited with all my books. Even now, I think books are so valuable. I don't sniff at the price of books because I just think of everything that's contained within a book. Wow, the whole world can be in a book. So yeah, there is a chained library at Wimborne Minster, and it's open to the public. So there's quite short opening hours, so I'm going to have to plan my buses and my timetables really carefully again, because I want to make sure that I can hit it at the time when the chained library is open. Because yeah, I've seen it on TV, I've seen it on documentaries, and I think it's the one at Wimborne that I've seen, but I want to see it in real life. I want to see it myself. So I'm really looking forward to that. They also have a proper old-fashioned market there one day a week. All your fruit and veg and all that regular kind of stuff, but they also have a flea market. Oh, I love a flea market. So yeah, I'm taking you to the flea market. There is also a place, I think it's the old watermill. So what's lovely about Wimborne is it has 2 rivers. It's greedy, it's got 2 rivers. And on the other river, name has escaped me for a moment. I think it's the old mill. It's now been reused as a craft and arts type studios are there. But again, I think it's open to the public, so that would be nice for a snoop. Yeah, can't wait. So what a lovely, incredibly positive outcome from a really grim couple of weeks, really horrible, to see this town and to feel my enthusiasm and excitement for every day coming back. And what I really loved, mentioning that bridge goes over the River Stour, and like I said, it's only one vehicle wide. So as we were leaving, we just crested the humpback and there was a Land Rover coming way too fast the other way. So suddenly it's like, oh, Land Rover stops. There's no traffic light on the bridge. It's all done by just courtesy, sort of give way sort of thing. I don't think there's not even a give way. I don't think they prioritise either way. Some narrow bridges, they'll always prioritise one direction of flow. Anyway, so we momentarily halted on the bridge. So the river must have been maybe 15 feet below, maybe about 5 metres below. And I saw the most wonderful sight down there. It's a chalk river. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. It's a chalk river, so beautiful, beautiful, crystal clear water. You can see every pebble on the bottom of the riverbed, gorgeous. And at the side, great reeds, beautiful, and just gorgeous, that incredibly vibrant green that we get in spring of that new burst of growth. So if you were in a canoe on the river and you were paddling along, you wouldn't have seen what I saw because it was behind the reeds. So if this is the river, here's the bridge, this is the river, here are the reeds, my bus is stopped here, so I'm looking down here. Behind the reeds, an area of the reeds had been flattened. There were a pair of swans, and I don't know who, I can't tell gender of swans just from a glimpse like that, but one of the swans was happily settled on flattened reeds and the other was just getting up off the nest. Looked like a perfect circle, the nest, and I'm guessing it would have been about maybe a couple of feet wide, maybe sort of 70 centimetres wide or so in diameter. Looked like a perfect circle of straw, but like I said, the swan who'd been sitting on it had kind of stood up. Maybe let's think it was the female. She got up and she was sort of stretching her wings and having a good old stretch and flap. So as she did so, I saw the clutch of eggs, and there must have been 9 or 10 eggs, big, beautiful, big swan's eggs. This huge clutch of eggs that serendipity decided that in that moment I would get to see it. It moved me terribly, because if it hadn't been for that Land Rover trying to come across the bridge and going, there's a bus, stop, reverse, so the Land Rover had to reverse to let the bus off the bridge, I wouldn't have seen that beautiful moment of those two swans with their clutch of eggs. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I can't wait to go back there. Now, as mentioned, the Stour, actually Dorset has quite a few. The Stour is a chalk river. And chalk rivers are actually an incredibly scarce habitat. So across the entire globe, this is the whole world, across the entire globe, there are only 200 chalk rivers / streams. I'm not going to differentiate between river and stream. I'm just going to say river for now. Oh, having that burp, just to say, with the endoscope, you will burp afterwards because they need to put a little bit of air in, just to kind of, because where your stomach is, it's very ripply, wibbly surface, a ripply surface. So they put a bit of air in to stretch it so they can see into every nook and cranny. And it does mean that when you come out afterwards, you belch, massive bellowing belches. They're used to it. You're allowed to do it. You don't even have to say sorry and excuse me. Glorious, the glorious freedom of a big belch. Anyway, I digress. Back to the riverbank. Yes, so the Stour, so chalk streams, incredibly rare. In the entire world, there are only 200 chalk rivers. It's bonkers. 170 of those chalk rivers are in the UK, which means globally, across the entire surface of this planet, there are only 30 chalk rivers outside of the UK. So any of those of you in the rest of the world, you've probably, unless you've been to the UK, you've probably never seen a chalk river. You don't know why I'm waxing lyrical about a chalk river. They are utterly beautiful. Put it this way, my favourite place to swim is the sea, but if I'm inland and I can't get to the sea, there's nothing like swimming in a chalk river. It's the water quality, it's so, so clear. Chalk River's famous for salmon and trout, wonderful. They're incredibly important sort of habitats, the ecology is so important because they're so incredibly biodiverse. So to have that moment on the bridge, looking down and going, because I hadn't realised, you know, oh, I'm going to be crossing the River Stour. But the minute I looked down, I was like, it's a chalk river. So yeah, I definitely have to get back there at some point. And I think, yeah, because it's a bit of a way to go. So I think I'd plan it, I'd have to leave early and I'd plan it to go, I think the market is on in the morning. And then I think the Change Library has a little morning window when you can go in and a little afternoon. So I'd plan it to get there fairly early, visit the market and the mill where the arts crafts is. Then for a lunch break, go down to the river and just walk a little way, not too far, the legs won't do it, but just go a little way, have a picnic by the river. If it's a really hot day, I'll blimmin' have a paddle. If no one's looking, I might have a swim. Oh, can I go into the library wet? But then to visit the library in the afternoon, for their little afternoon session. And then maybe have one more little sit by on the riverbank before wending my way home. Because it's door to door, it's about 2.5 hours. So, but I think it'd be worth it to go and visit such a lovely place. Really, really looking forward to that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to bringing you all along as well. A couple of other things I was going to chat about, but I think I've probably been chatting for long enough as a first one back, so I'll leave it there. The next video I'm going to be sewing whilst we chat and tell you about my May bank holiday weekend where it's the first bank holiday in May. It's the May Day bank holiday, which was also glorious and also a lovely new town to visit, a new old town. And like I said, I'm going to be sewing while we do it. I'm going to be making some bunting, so you see how I make my bunting too. So I'll catch you up for that. I think, talking of sewing, there are some more things to sew in the garden, so that will be coming. What else? There's some other chatty stuff I was going to talk about today, but it can wait because I'll be here forever otherwise. But yeah, a tricky fortnight, a really tricky fortnight, but I hope I dealt with it in my usual pragmatic way. I dealt with it in my pragmatic way. I allowed myself moments of like, oh, you know, I allowed myself to feel the emotions I was feeling, put it that way. Great that I had that weekend with Kate and I could talk about my fears and anxieties, and then we can joke about things and get on and okay, I've talked about it, put it to one side, let's get on with what we're up to. And yeah, like I say, with the endoscope, it was nowhere near as, it was just, it just didn't, what I'd imagined in my head didn't compare to the actuality of having it, and it was fine, absolutely fine and easy. So please, if you've got one come up, please try not to. I'm not going to tell you not to worry, because I'm not going to tell you what emotions to feel, or I'm not going to tell you what to think. It's your own thoughts and your own emotions, but I hope that's a little bit reassuring that it might not be as awful as you're having it in your head. And then yeah, finally, just that moment of leaving Wimborne and seeing those two gorgeous swans. I mean, they're huge, aren't they, swans? Especially when they're on land and you see them standing up as well, with their utterly fabulous clutch of eggs. I wonder how many cygnets. Oh, well, you see, actually, I'm going to waffle now. Just a brief waffle. I was thinking maybe I would go back. When was that? That was right at the beginning of May. If I went back towards the end of June, just to hopefully, you know, the weather is nice and I want it to be hot. I like going out on a hot day. By then, will the cygnets have hatched? I need to go online to look at how long it takes for swans' eggs to hatch, because it would be great if I could time it with once the eggs have hatched, so that if I do go and have a little picnic by the river, I'll go on the opposite bank. I wouldn't go anywhere near them, of course, but then wouldn't it be a thrill to see the cygnets on the water, and I'll be like, I knew you when you were an egg. Brilliant. All right, lovelies, I'll see you again really soon, and hopefully, you know, normal service will resume. We'll see. But the main thing is, yay, I'm back, and I've got my joie de Vivi again. See you all soon. Until then, cheerio.